Hello, this is Shawn, and today we're going to talk about what is an option period and what happens during an option period. So today I'm a real estate professional that's going to talk as though I'm representing the seller because I could be on either side of the equation. And an option period is the first part of the contract. That means that as a seller, we've gone under contract with a buyer, they've made an offer on the house, on my house, and we've negotiated terms and we've signed off on the price and all the other terms related to the home sale. And now the first phase, which is usually 10 days, is the buyer's option period. Sometimes it could be 7, but usually it's 10 days. And that is the buyer's unrestricted right to terminate the contract for any reason whatsoever. So technically speaking, it's an option for the buyer and not the seller. And once the buyer goes under contract with you, the seller, now they have 10 days to inspect the property and negotiate for repairs successfully so that an amendment is signed. Because the original contract, whenever you agree to all the price and terms, it is an as-is sale. And so you actually technically amend the contract to state that you're either, as a seller, going to give money to the buyer, an agreed amount that was negotiated out for money that they're going to spend on certain repairs after closing, or you're going to agree to do certain repairs instead of selling as-is prior to closing. So that's ultimately what you negotiate during the buyer's option period, and that is what is kosher and what is typical in the process of the option period, even though technically the buyer can use it for any reason whatsoever and just say, I changed my mind in the contract. That is how it can be used. So as a seller, I want to encourage you to focus on the ways that you can use this part of the process and negotiate, come up with a negotiating strategy versus trying to avoid it. So as a seller, when we try to avoid the processes that are typical in selling a home in Texas, typically we're going to attract a buyer who is not a traditional buyer, which usually means that's an investor-minded buyer, and usually that means it's going to cost you a lot more than if you were just focused on a better negotiating strategy and faring the best during those parts of negotiations as opposed to trying to avoid them, right? So let's talk about what are examples of negotiating strategies. First of all, hire a professional that knows what they're doing and negotiates great on your behalf. That's a great negotiating strategy. Another would be don't replace the roof. Now I get this question a lot. Well, I'm getting ready to sell my house. I know that it's in the end of its life. Maybe I should go ahead and replace the roof. And I tell people all the time, do not replace the roof. Because if you do, first of all, know that when a buyer is looking at your house and they're looking at its stats and its finishes and all that, they're not looking at the roof and looking at the other roofs of the homes that is your competition. So it's out of mind until they enter their option period, the first 10 days of the contract. And now once they inspect, of course, they're going to be focused on the foundational structure and the roof of your house. And if it's in bad shape, they're probably going to ask you to replace it or at least do a lot of work to it. Well, at that point, if you haven't replaced it, now you can replace the roof and the chances are you're not going to have to do much of any other repairs. So you're going to get great credit for that roof replacement if you didn't do it up front before you even started the contract phase. If you did do it up front, they're just going to focus on all the other stuff that comes up during inspections and come after you anyway. So you might as well get credit for it. Another negotiating strategy would be, if you're going to include the refrigerator and washer and dryer, don't offer it up immediately. Don't advertise it. Maybe you leave it, but don't offer it up because it has to be attached to the contract in a non-realty item addendum. And if it's not attached, it's not supposed to come with. So when they ask you for repairs, maybe you could trade your refrigerator, washer, and dryer for some value there instead of doing other things. So that is what an option period is, and that is how you can leverage it to help you on your behalf when you're selling a home here in Texas. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.